Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I would do a video on my top 10 GE premiums for this sale, just because there's a lot of really cool ones, and why not give a list of decent ones. There'll be chapters in this video, so you can have a look at all of the different ones that I personally like. Obviously this isn't the best ones, it's just the ones that I find fun or find the most efficient. As always, if you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. The first one is the Su-11. The Su-11 is a rank 5 battle rating 7.0 vehicle for the Russians. With the Russians constantly getting new jets at the highest echelon of the game, one of the good things about the Su-11 is it will always be useful for getting into those higher echelons. It is a rank 5, so it can research rank 6 and below at full efficiency. It has really good SL rewards and really good RP rewards, and it can get you through some of the areas which are of issue when it comes to the tech tree. For me, personally, the rank 4 of the Soviet tech tree is not the best. Rank 3 is kind of where it peaks, along with rank 2. And then rank 5, there's a lot of very good vehicles, like the MiG-15 BIS, for example, but there is a few duds as well in this area. And then rank 6, once again, quite a few duds, but then rank 7 is where it kicks off again, and is pretty fun, apart from these two vehicles. So the Su-11 can get you through a lot of the hardship, which is in these little areas of the tech tree, and for me, it is grossly under BR'd. Whenever I see these in games, even yesterday when I was playing 8.0, this thing was going toe-to-toe with a lot of 7780 aircraft. The engines it has, the Lulkas, are very strong. It gets 2 of them. This is also just better than the standard tech tree version, the Su-9. It has a better flight performance. It also has access to one 37mm and two 23s, which once you get used to them can do a lot of damage and do very well. It's very good in the vertical. It does also have access to two 250s, which drop independently, so you can bring those in for ground forces and just be incredibly powerful as well, along with the really good 7.0 lineup that the Soviets have. You know, the IS-3, the T-44-100, stuff like that are just really strong at their BRs. So the vehicle itself has really good flight performance. It has pretty decent guns once you get used to them, and also really good bombs as well, so its multi-role capability is great. You can even use it in naval forces nowadays when you can spawn in a plane there. So overall, just a fantastic vehicle, and gets you through a lot of the hardship of the Soviet tree. The Ju-288C also makes the list. This one is super easy to play. It's one of those where you can watch a TV show in the background, watch a stream in the background, watch some YouTube videos in the background, and it's a great SL earner and also an RP earner. They did nerf the amount of rewards that you get from vehicles like this, but it's still good enough to play and just kind of grind SL or grind RP. At rank 4, you can research all the way up to rank 5. With the German tech tree, rank 5 is super rough for the Germans, so maybe if you want to get a higher vehicle, like something like the G91R4, which is still very good, at rank 5 to get into that rank 6 area, which once again is quite weak for Germany after some of the changes, but then, you know, at rank 7 they are actually pretty good. So the G91R4 might be good for you as well, but I think the Ju-288 is just way more relaxed. Like if you're a player who just kind of wants to play War Thunder as like a secondary game while doing other stuff on your PC, this is a no-brainer. It has two 1800 kilo bombs. It also has access to a bunch of other ones as well. These can easily drop bases very simply. It also has access to some really good turrets, a 20mm on the back of it, which has really good coverage on the gun itself, and means that if anything gets on your tail, it's really easy to kill. Also, at the same time, the actual gunner for all the guns is here, so if they shoot your tail, generally you'll still be able to fire because the gunner won't get knocked unconscious. It's also super maneuverable. Even after the nerfs it got from its maneuverability, it's still really maneuverable, and really survivable for the vehicle itself. It's just a very easy plane to play. There's not many predators of this thing. Usually you can hit bases and then get back to your base if you want to do that, or climb to space, whatever you feel like. And with the engines, it has the 610s, which are, 2 DBs just kind of molded together. It's very powerful as well at moving forward. It's a super simple machine to play, and at the same time just means that you can kind of grind in the background. The RU-251 is one of those vehicles which is still fun to play after all of this time. It's a vehicle which has very good mobility. It also has the scouting mechanic and the 90mm, which a lot of people don't like, but I personally think it's fine at 7.0. You have, of course, this round, the Heat FS, which does a lot of damage. You just got to be a bit more accurate with how you shoot. It also has smoke grenades, so being able to reposition is one of the things that you can do quite well in this thing with the smoke grenades right here. It's just got really good mobility, not great survivability, but if you're playing this right, you should never really get shot unless like a plane comes in. And it can give you a really good advantage at the start of the game. You can get a quick cap off, you can get a good positioning off, like a flanking position. You can scout everything, and if anything gets close, you can bop it with the gun. The RU being at rank 4 instead of rank 5 kind of sucks, because it means that you can only research into rank 5 with it efficiently, but it's still fine. Like a lot of the machines that it has in its lineup are actually rank 5, so the M48, for example, the Weasel, which has a very similar job to the RU, but I think I would take the RU personally, the Cougar Blitz, which is there as well, and you can even up tier it into 7.3 until you get, of course, the 2 light tanks here for that 7.3 lineup. Germany has a really strong 7.0 lineup at the moment, and also 7.3 lineup at the moment, and 7.7 lineup as well with the DF, the Rakuten, and the Maus if you have it. The 6.7 lineup is actually the one which kind of struggles right now for Germany, because of the fact that they moved stuff like the Panther II and also the Tiger II 105 out of it. You do have the Elephant if you got that in the Battle Pass though, and of course the Slars there, but if you don't have any of these vehicles here, the 6.7 lineup's not the easiest. So the RU, if you get it, can help you get past those lineups and get into the Giga lineups, like the 7.3, 7.7, and 7.01, so that can be super useful for that. It also is just really fun to play. Like it's a highly mobile vehicle, and the gun is good enough, the reload is fine, because you always cripple a target if you hit it, and then of course the gun depression is great as well. It's just really enjoyable, like there's no other way to put it. The T-114 is also on this list. I wouldn't say this is the most effective vehicle, but it is definitely one of the funnest. It has absolutely no survivability. This thing will just get killed by machine guns. But because it's so small, and because it's such a low profile, you can hide it in areas and become a very, very good scout. Obviously, you have improved optics and airstrike showing that it can do the scouting role, and the 106mm it has very good penetration on it. So if anybody comes near you, any heavy tanks or anything, you can just nuke it. It has a kind of, it has the 3-piece first stage, so whatever you run into, you'll be able to kill. The only issue is it will take you a while to reload that. Even though the reload rate is 3.2 seconds, that's for the first stage, not for any of the other things, so that can be a bit rough. So no survivability, really good speed though, and also at the same time really good gun at dealing with targets at shorter range. But the main thing you play this, or the main way you play something like this is very similar to the RU. You use it to flank at the start or hide it somewhere, you scout a bunch of targets, and if anything gets close to you, then what you end up doing is you can, just fight your way out of stuff if you need to, crippling a vehicle and then moving forward. The 7.3 lineup as well for America is pretty decent. You have the M47 with its new gun depression, the T32, which is quite nice, and the M48. The problem with a lot of these vehicles is when they're stock, they don't feel very good. But once you have them spaded, they feel really awesome, which is, pretty fun in general. The T-54E1 also gets a shout in there, but the thing is, the 8.0 lineup is so stacked for America, I feel like it doesn't get into it. You got the AOS, the T-95E1, the Sheridan, the Bradley, You know, you have the M60A2 as well. All of these are really good. The M901 for a different playstyle. I feel like even the M163, I feel like the T54 doesn't really make it into this lineup, and that's a problem. Whereas the T114, since you don't really have a light tank for 7.3, for the Americans, it fits much better than that one. For China, you have the WMA 301. This is one of the most powerful light tanks at its BR, if not the most powerful. It recently got up PR'd, and it should probably go up again. It has a very good gun on it. Its mobility is not the best that you can see, but it is good enough, especially after the the wheel changes, sorry. And the survivability is surprisingly good because there's so much open space in this thing, and because it has no armor, it usually doesn't, like a lot of people use APF SDS at this BR, so the rounds just go straight through it. So if you get hit by heat, you just die, and you'll die if a cast plane comes in, but that's most light tanks at these BRs. The main selling point is this gun. You know, the APF SDS is super strong for the A3 area. You also have access to ATGMs, which are really easy to use. They're also tandem warheads. They don't care about extra armor like ERA or even composite and stuff. It can just go straight through. It has Gen 2 thermals for the gunner and also the Scout UAV, the laser. You can use this place pretty much anywhere. You also have the HEVT if you want to have a bit of fun. Has smoke grenades for repositioning. Has pretty much everything you would want from a light vehicle. The only issue is reverse is pretty rough, so getting out of an area once you're into it is definitely not the easiest. If your turret gets popped as well, you still can actually survive because it has a 5-man crew, weirdly enough. So that can also help it out, but this is just a super fun vehicle. And with a lot of the vehicles in the Chinese tech tree, you've got the 122MT squadron vehicle. This is a fantastic vehicle at 8.3. You also have a really good 8.0 lineup. You have the PTL02 you can throw in there as well. 8.7 is really strong. You can bring this up with it. And also if you have the T62 as well, or the T69 2G, both these fall in. There's a really nice lineup around this thing, and it is just a solo carry as well. So just fantastic vehicle overall to play. The Leopard 1A5 NO also makes it into this list, and this one is very comparable to a lot of other vehicles that are around this BR. It's a good MBT, has access to the 105 with the standard reload, has access to, of course, the DM33, which is one of the stronger rounds at 9.0, also gunner thermals, laser rangefinder, all of that stuff. This is just a standard 1A5 that you see in the German tech tree, and also you see it in the Italian tech tree. The only difference, it has a little bit more armor on it, like here, but it's not going to make any difference. Like, it's just a 1A5. So the only issue with this vehicle, even though it's really strong, is it doesn't really have a lineup for the Swedish. You know, you're going to have to bring stuff up with it or put it at 9.3. So if you're uncomfortable with that and can't like solo carry in it, which is fair, the STRV81 RB52 is also a really good pick because it's just a standard Centurion at 7.3 with access to the good old SS11s. But the SS11s are keyboard guided, so if you fire them, you won't be able to move the vehicle. Usually, it's better to not use these things unless you need to confirm a kill in a 1v1 scenario. The vehicle itself, though, stabilized 84mm, you know, really strong with the APDS that it gets access to, and then also decent mobility, good smoke grenades. Everything is nice about the Centurion. It's like a standard vehicle in a way. And also at 7.3, you have a really good lineup. You know, you have the standard Centurion, you got the IKV-91, you also could up-tier it with the other Centurion, the Mark 10, the UDES, and also the T-54 if you wanted. So yeah, both of those are great picks. This one doesn't have a full lineup around it, so it can be a little bit rough. This is more of a safer pick, but also you don't get access to the rewards of the 105, because this is a rank 6, it can research the whole of the tech tree, whereas this, only being a rank 4, could only research up to rank 5. When it comes to naval, I think if you are new to naval, it is worth focusing on the US naval tech tree because it is the best in the game. The coastal stuff can be argued, but the blue water stuff, even right now, America has some fantastic lineups and also at the same time has the most room to grow. The Helena is at 6.0. It's probably the strongest premium at this area, and it is available for GE. Has access to the 6-inch guns. It has 5 sets of triple mounts. They have an insanely good fire rate of 6 seconds, which is better or equal to pretty much everything else that's at this BR. It has really good secondary weapons as well. A bunch of 5-inch guns, a bunch of 40s, and also 20mm. This thing just annihilates anything that it faces at its BR. If it gets up BR'd into battleships and battle cruisers, yeah, it can't do too much, you know, and, well, it can knock out turrets and it can annoy them, but generally it's not going to be, you know, a barnstormer. But at its BR and lower, it just annihilates everything. It's one of the feared ships of the game and incredibly strong. Another little shout out also goes to the Moffett. Obviously the Moffett also has the 1200% reward on it. It's just a porter class, so it has access to the 4 dual mounted 5-inch guns. These are also rapid firing, so you can just keep firing over and over again, 22 rounds per minute on the first stage. The porter is one of the easiest classes of ships in the game to play, and the Moffett is no different. It's why a lot of bots have used them for many years to garner SL. So if you want 2 SL grinders and you want to grind through what will be the best blue water tree in the game, both of these are fantastic picks. For the coastal side of things, you have 2 machines which I think are worth looking at for the Americans. You have the Thunderbolts, the PT-556. This is just a standard PT boat with the 4 torpedoes, which are very good. And then also you have access to the 20mm, which is nice on the front, and then the 37. But the main reason you pick this up is because of the quad that's sat on the back near the Scarecrow and the reindeer. This is what makes this thing unique, the quad 20mm. So if anything gets within like 1.5k of you, or even 2k, all you got to do is turn this thing around, go away from the enemy, and just annihilate it with the Thunderbolt. It feels really nice to use, and generally is fantastic to play. You also have an amazing lineup at Coastal US for this BR. If you get the Thunderbolt, you have the PT-59, you also have the PT-565, and then on top of it, you can bring the Hellcat and the Corsair, which is just really strong. Like the Hellcat is 3.0 in arcade, by the way. So it's really nice to play, the Thunderbolt. It also can get you into rank 4, which is quite good as well. So that's most of the tech tree without looking at these as well. The other honorable mention has to go to the Douglas. The Douglas having, of course, the missiles on it, which basically just annihilate anything that's in the air. In arcade, they reload, obviously, and they can just be very, very powerful. So the missiles mean that air denial is on point. Is it useful for anything else? I mean, you can use the missiles to hit naval units as well, which is not bad, but the 3-inch gun's not too useful, and the 212-7s are pretty not useful, so you're limited to just being a missile machine. But if you want to enjoy a different part of gameplay, I suppose, this is the way to do it with the Douglas, to have a little bit of fun with it. And last, but definitely not least, is the OF40 MTCA. This is a better variant of the standard OF40 Mark II that you see in the tech tree, and it's at the same BR. The major difference between it is the engine. This thing has a 1,000 horsepower engine, which is really nice on it, and then if you have a look at the OF40 Mark II, it only has an 830 horsepower engine. So this can motor around the place a little bit better. It is very similar to a Leopard in the way that it plays. It has the 105mm with the standard 105 reload. It has the 4-man crew. It has a little bit of extra spaced armor in it, just to kind of help you out, but the survivability on this thing is not very good, just like a lot of other vehicles. The main thing is with that boosted engine, it can get you into positions quicker compared to other vehicles. It also has a 50 cal, which is so useful at this BR, especially when helicopters are roaming around and also drones and things like that. You can use it to great effect. The only issue is it doesn't have access to thermals, but it doesn't need them, if I'm honest with you. It also has the DM23, which isn't as good as the 33, but it's good enough to be able to kill anything that's at this BR. You also have the laser rangefinder and the smoke grenades, and also, compared to stuff like the 185, it won't get as much into that 9-7-10-0 matchmaking, which it can be super rough. for those vehicles when they get upturned. So the MTCA is really good. Also, at the same time, a lot of people bash on Italy, and sometimes for good reason when it comes to their tech trees, but it's not as if like there's not some really good lineups in the Italian tech tree. 2.7 is really nice, 3.7 is also really nice, and then it has a little bit of a dip in the mid tiers, but 6.3 is really fun, 6.7 with the light tanks is okay, 7.3 is really good, 7.7 is really good, 8.7 is really good, 9.0 is really good, and the 0840 MTCA can get you up there to that area. Like this vehicle is really good for that, and it's why I always recommend it. Like, Italy has a lot to offer in the game, and I've enjoyed it a lot, especially the propeller aircraft and the ground vehicles at specific BRs. And if you ever get those tasks to actually, you know, get SPG kills, you know, you have, of course, the Stug 3 right here, you got the Breda, and you got the Semavente, which you can bring in, and they're all really good at what they do, on top of the Zarigny if you have that vehicle as well. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.